That would be perfect.
Here's Merrill. We have
Thank
a full
you.
board.
Nice.
And I'll wait for Meryl to show up on my. There
Hi.
she is. Hi, Meryl.
Hey, Meryl.
Hello, guys.
Well, welcome everyone, and I will call this meeting of Thursday, January 15th of the Nantucket Parks and Recreation Commission to order. A minute ago, and I'll do it again, reminded that the audience that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. And I will seek, no, I should, because we're doing this remotely, I want to note by a roll call vote, commission members present. So Nikki, are you
Present.
present? Thank you.
I am.
Gina?
Present.
Thank you. Meryl
Here.
and Jesse.
Aye.
And I'm Mike Cosort here. So we have a full board. This is wonderful. Approval of the agenda for January 15th. Anybody see any changes?
I do have
Seeing
I do have
none.
one edit.
Oh,
Actually,
please, go ahead.
The next meeting date is incorrect.
Okay.
We had two different calendars for the commission at one point, and they were conflicting. They're now aligned. So the next meeting date would not be the 26th, but February 19th, which would not be our traditional vacation week out here. So that would be the one change I have for now.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Charlie. So noted. And I saw somebody earlier, but I'm not sure if they're on. Do we have public comment on our agenda for this evening? Charlie, do you have anybody showing up on yours?
We've got some people here, but I'm guessing they're all here for line item number 7, which is discussion of the potential turf ban with Board of Health.
Okay, then I will move on to that discussion of the potential Board of Health. Oh, no, I need to do the approval of the minutes first. So I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of October 16th.
I approve.
Thank you, Nikki, and second,
Second.
Meryl. All those approve signify by saying aye.
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 And again, I'll do a roll call. Nikki,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Jesse,
Aye.
and Meryl.
Aye.
And I approve as well. Now we'll move on to a discussion. Do you want to begin that discussion, Charlie, and then we'll see what the commissioners want to add?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm sure as many of you know, the school board recently decided to move ahead with their renovation project for the football field in Vito Capizzo Stadium, and that includes a synthetic turf system. After that meeting concluded, it was brought to the Board of Health to place a potential ban on synthetic turf on Nantucket. So it's kind of become a little bit of a hot topic item, as you can imagine. I was actually just watching the Board of Health meeting that's going on tonight. They're looking to schedule an information session. They were still working out the date. I believe they thought it might be their February 5th meeting, I believe, is what
Yep,
they might have said,
that's
but
what
they
I
were
was
still
thinking.
working on the date where they will have experts from both sides to come in and present to them, the pros and cons of turf, what health hazards might be for them. And then they did say tonight that no decision will be made at that meeting, but they will then have a subsequent public hearing where they might bring forward the potential of a ban on synthetic turf on the island. So this would most dramatically impact, obviously, the school's plans there if they decided to move ahead with synthetic turf for the football field, because it really helps them in the biggest way with their hours of use issue. Currently, even if they were to rebuild the field, but put in a new grass field, they still haven't solved the hours of use issue just because they don't have enough fields. What it means for us on the town side, our current field, what I've been told, the current field at Nobody would not be in jeopardy. We would not be forced to remove it, but it could potentially hinder us a few years down the line when we go to look for a replacement. This would cause kind of a big problem for us. We are, as I'll touch on a little bit later, adding a new grass field to the Nobody Fields complex, but that synthetic field that we have currently Nobody takes so much use and so many hours off of the grass fields. We'd be hard pressed without it. I mean, there have been very few days that I haven't seen somebody on that synthetic field year round. I think the only time so far was after that last snowstorm when it was 20 degrees and the ice hadn't melted, so the field was covered in ice. It was really the only time that I haven't seen somebody out there using the field. There's a couple people every morning that choose to go and walk on the field. There's always people out there playing soccer. And if we were to take those, even if we don't look at the programmed hours, but just all the recreational use that the island gets out of that field and take that off that synthetic turf field, shift it onto our grass fields, it would push our hours of use numbers kind of over the edge. We're walking kind of a fine line right now with our hours of use between Nobody or Delta, soccer, and soccer, little league, and lacrosse. All those programs are growing. So this is something that we do have a vested interest in, even if it doesn't seem so right now, because this will kind of determine the future of what we can do at those fields. We did host again varsity girls soccer program for this high school out at the turf field all fall, which went great. It helped them out to relieve some pressure, and some issues they were having programming wise. Again, if we were to lose our turf field, they were to not get their turf field, we'd really be in a pickle, I think.
All right, thank you, Charlie. I see several people in the audience, but before I move to any comments or questions from them, I would like to hear from the commissioners to hear what your thoughts are. And Nikki, I'll give you the first opportunity.
Well, my thoughts are that it basically takes away from what we are, like Parks and Recreation, right? We're here to promote recreation, and to take that away from all of the programs that we have, I think it's insanity. I mean, there are so many things out there, and I know we are going to see both sides when we do have that information session in February. But with everybody that we have and all the programs that are just growing year by year, and thankfully, I mean, that's what we want, and that's what we deserve as the youth deserve here. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous to try and take that away, because then, like Charlie said, how are we gonna be able to have teams over here? We're not going to have anything. Nobody's going to come here. Then it's just, I think it's a bad idea all round. We know there's alternatives out there, and I know that, that we have actually been looking into that. So to take away from those alternatives, I mean, we've all spoken up over it at the meetings already. And I just think we have to keep fighting this. It isn't right. Otherwise, I mean, what are we going to do? Are we going to build a recreation center? Because that's what's going to have to happen, and it's going to have to be enormous if that's the case, right? Because we have to have year-round recreation, and if you take that away, then we're not going to have that, and that's not fair to our community.
Okay, Gina, would you like to weigh in or?
Sure. Speaking from, more of wearing the hat of a mom whose kids play on the fields, at least at Nobody, we just find there are handfuls of times where the fields are not even playable. They're in poor condition. There are holes. There are mounds. There's huge grassy areas that are full of complete dirt or swampy, and it's tough to keep up with that. The grass fields just do not withstand our level and intensity of play. That goes straight across, I'm sure, for the fields that are not at Nobody or elsewhere on the island. And we just need something that can support all of the traffic that is trouncing on the grass. We also have found that we have heard specifically from many off-island teams, they find it very difficult. They don't want to send their players to our fields for risk of injury. And that is also awfully scary. And it unfortunately starts to, reduce the level of play for our students and for our players to be able to, compete. And it's just the wave of the future. I feel like they just absolutely have to get on board with something other than grass fields.
Okay, thank you. Meryl, do you want to weigh in?
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
My iPad updated and it moved all the switches around for Zoom. Well, I agree both with Nikki and with Gina, and just like firsthand experience. My husband and his friends started like a little pickup soccer league this past summer, and we've played essentially every game on the. I've played. I don't play soccer, but it's fun. We've played every game on the turf field, basically. Sometimes on the grass if the turf is like too crowded. But yeah, back to what Charlie was saying, like those fields get used even this time of year. We didn't play soccer that one weekend when it had snow on the field, but like we'll be out there this weekend. And I don't know what the health risks are, so I would be like super curious to know, but then also thinking about like the hazards of grass and the holes and the mole mounds. I mean, it's like, yeah, you really just kind of have to make a pros and cons list when it comes down to it.
Thank you. Jesse?
Charlie, I was just curious if you knew this or not. I understand it's a citizens article that's going into town meeting, and that the school committee voted in favor of it. But is this the Board of Health meeting? Is this something that has to happen in for town meeting, or is this happening from something else?
So you think would the vote if the Board of Health were to make a vote, would that have to go to town meeting? Is that
Well, no, I mean, like, is it part of the prerequisite for town meeting?
No. So this is something that it was brought to the Board of Health by people who are were trying to shoot. I don't know correct word is to strike down the turf field. And when that kind of failed at school committee, I think this was all right. Let's turn a corner and go to another committee and see if we can push, another board on the island to make a ban. If this, so I think that's where we ended up at the Board of Health, is that the school committee made their decision based on all the newest technology and everything they've been given by the independent engineers, which are, there's I believe Weston and Sampson they hired to do the study and to go out and research all these turf products, which is an entirely different company that was hired to do the actual engineering and the plans for the project. And the stuff that they've been given back is, everything is testing, lower than, what's already in the soils, at the school. They've agreed to independent third-party testing of the actual carpet fiber that would come to Nantucket. And so just to clarify what they're going to do there is basically as the roll is produced, it would be coming to us. It would be sealed at the factory and sent out for independent testing to read the levels of what's actually in the carpet that would be coming to the island. So the school is doing a lot to, go to take. I mean, they're taking, I think, way over and above what I think most people would do to kind of show that this is a safe product and it's the best move forward for them. I don't know if that answers your question, Jesse, or not.
Yeah, no, that I was just curious how it came in front of the Board of Health and how they are. And so are they? And I guess this is a discussion. It's not necessarily, or is it a vote to ban turf?
Right now, it's so they've had one open meeting discussion already when it first came up as a topic, and they've decided to hold a special info session where proponents of both sides, pro and con, are going to bring their specialists to an information session for the Board of Health. I believe that will be their first meeting in February, and then a subsequent meeting they will then have a public hearing where they may or may not vote to ban turf on the island. From what I understand, that vote, if they decided to vote, it would does not need to go to town meeting or to a public ballot. It is, that is within their power to do that. And then I've also been told that subsequently, if a new board of health were to come on after the town elections, they could reverse that decision. So it's very interesting.
Okay. And then the finance committee and board of selectmen, they voted on it as well.
I believe they are all in support. I believe, as
They're
of
all
I
in
was watching
support.
last
That's what
night's
I
select
thought.
board meeting,
So
they're still
you got the school-
finalizing the warrant, but I believe, are all in support of the
you got
school.
the school committee, finance committee, board of selectmen, and that have been presented with the pros and cons of turf, and they all voted for it. So I
I
would
believe,
like
by
to
understanding,
think-
I don't know if FinCom has finalized, but I believe
Okay.
the capital committee has met and has
Yeah.
presented this project, and it is currently on the warrant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like it's going in the right direction, but we have to be vigilant. But I'd like to think that the Board of Health, with given that they're given the same information, would come up with the same conclusion. I would hope, but and just to say, I mean, I'm in favor of turf, and the technology has come a long way since the nobody turf grounds were put down, and from what I understand, the PFAS situations is there's more PFAS in rainwater than some of this new material coming out. So I'm for it for all the reasons that the rest of the board have said. I'm not going to repeat them, but I think it's a valuable asset for the community, and I'm excited to finally see a track field and turf field be presented at town meeting.
Thank you, Jesse. So before I open it up for comments from the public, I don't want to miss my opportunity to speak to this issue. Having been a player, a coach, a referee of numerous sports in many states, I know how challenging this issue is, and having been the superintendent, I know the challenge that the superintendent and school board, school committee are placed in this. And I also think that we would all agree that our aquifer is precious on Nantucket. I don't think anybody, is arguing that point. It's interesting to me that sometimes this issue is reduced to a discussion about soccer. And I know that it's not. I know that there are, many people who play other sports who will benefit from this field. But I can't help thinking, quite frankly, that field hockey and lacrosse are a different sport on turf than they are on soccer. And it's night and day for field hockey. And in lacrosse, it's frankly dangerous playing on a field where you cannot anticipate the bounce of a ball that is hard going fast. And so, there are risks inherent in any sport. We understand that as athletes and coaches, but it's our job to reduce those risks to the extent that we can. And so I hope that those arguing this issue, and I know that many of them that are arguing this issue are speaking to that issue for the other sports just as vociferously as they are for soccer. The other thing that I would add is that it takes one muddy, rainy day in the fall to ruin that field on grass. And I mean, ruin it, make it unplayable for an extended period of time. And the other thing that I want to do here before I open it up is to say that I want to give credit to the grounds and maintenance crew at the high school that does their utmost. A lot of times we talk about the risks inherent, and I don't want it to be an indictment of that group of people who who care a great deal and work very hard to make that as playable as it can be. And I would say that sometimes our grass fields are as good as any, but they don't compare to artificial turf. And I guess all we can do as a committee, having heard each of you speak, is to say that we are unanimously behind using turf that has been researched and that we know to be as safe as it can be. I also know that the um, the technology of turf changes, every 5 years, if not more often. And the next iteration that we put on the Nobadeer fields will be better than the iteration that we put on years ago. And then 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when we have to resurface it, it will be improved again. And so I don't think that this is a one and done situation where we're putting something down and we're never going to improve it. We will have to improve it. So I think I'll leave it at that, the Parks and Rec commissioners are unanimously behind the project as it stands. And I'll turn it over to the public for comment. I can see Graham and Hadley, but I think there are others on that. So if you will use your raise the hand, I'm going to go with Graham first, and then I think we'll follow with Elizabeth Weber. So Graham,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you guys. I thank all of you on the board. I have to say that I appreciate all your efforts. I love everything that you guys do. Anything that involves physical activity, I'm a fan of, and recreation. So thank you for everyone on the island. I'm also very impressed that you guys all talk off the cuff because I'm going to read. But um, I'm not here today to talk about the PFAS or the aquifer, which is kind of surprising lately because I feel like I talk about that a lot. But I wanted to talk a little bit more on the personal level, just letting you guys know what Nobodier and all those fields mean to me. And so it actually really ties a lot to what Mike was saying, how the fields get ruined after one day of rain. One of my favorite memories on Nobodier Turf Field was coaching. I was coaching with Kate Garrett and our daughter's team for the Nantucket Soccer Club. And we had just the whole team out there. And when I tell you it was pouring rain, it was raining sideways. There was no lightning, so we could definitely be out there, but it was the hardest rain I've ever been out there, and it was unbelievable. It was freezing. The kids had the best practice that they have ever had. It was, I mean, Kate and I were frozen, and it was unbelievable. The practice went on anyway. The girls were laughing. They slipped everywhere. Nobody got injured. And it was the best practice that I could ever remember that I attended. And I'm sure many of you remember. I don't know if it was like this for you, but I played on grass as a kid. And we demolished our fields, like absolutely demolished them when it was raining. And we turned them into mud pits, and it was the best, right? And we love it. But we all now know with groundskeeping, you can't do that. And so we're not allowed to do that because fields need the time to rest and recover and so that they stay safe and playable. But for us, what does that mean if we don't have a turf field? It means practices get canceled and games are lost. So the closest thing my kids will ever have to those rain-soaked, joyful memories and mud pits is with the turf field. And turf practice means practice doesn't get canceled, and the kids are playing regularly, and the demand is high, as you guys know. I mean, you guys are out there, you know. And another, big thing is that it's not just relied on by Nantucket Soccer Club or Axe, lacrosse, or the Sunday Soccer League. It's also by the school. And if you head there on any given Sunday, you're going to see something even bigger. That community is a bunch of avid soccer families. The kids are running around, parents are cheering, people are connecting. And I just want to touch base on a topic we've heard tossed around, and we were just talking about. If the Board of Health were going to enforce a ban on turf and require the removal from the school and not allow nobody to put a new one in when it becomes end of life, several programs would be deeply affected. Nantucket Soccer Club, Nantucket Lacrosse, and the Sunday Soccer League, along with NPS. So it's also important to recognize that our school depends on nobody to offset the hours on their grass field. So if nobody is taken away and NPS is not allowed to have turf, it will place enormous pressure on the remaining grass. So potentially, in order to keep those fields safe, Nantucket Public School would have no choice but to limit hours so the grass can recover. So what that means when field time is reduced, it means reduction in sports offered. So that leads to a real question. What are they going to cut? Are they going to cut football? Are they going to cut lacrosse, field hockey, soccer? Who gets cut? Which kids lose their season, their team, or even their chance to play? So these are not abstract trade-offs. They affect real kids, real families, school systems, and Parks and Rec deeply. And so I'm hoping that the Board of Health considers truly what a turf ban could mean for our community and for our kids to stay and physically and mentally healthy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Graham.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Elizabeth and then Maren. Erin, you're on deck.
Thank you. Are you still going by Dr. Kozord? I don't believe I've seen you since you interviewed me 8 years ago.
No, I
So
think
it's lovely to see you. How would you like me to refer to you?
I think Mr. Kozord or
Mr.
C,
Kozord.
or even Mike nowadays works.
Yes, lovely. So, I do think it's appropriate that when someone speaks at any of these meetings, we disclose our affiliation, our point of view, and where we're coming from. So to be clear, for those of you that don't know me, I am Elizabeth Weber. I am an employee of the Nantucket Public School District as a teacher, but I'm also the volunteer assistant varsity field hockey coach. My husband, Dan, and I've never really said this out loud, have honestly taken the program from 0 to 60. I say that proudly in the last 7 years. Sorry. It's just really exciting to be acknowledged by you and other individuals that our sport matters. Charlie is incredibly supportive. I've been playing it since I was 10 years old, and all throughout college, it has been my life. And I've seen the power of what it does for other people. Hearing Graham speak, it doesn't have to be field hockey, but I apologize for getting emotional. I wasn't planning on it, but what I'm hearing about is the power of sport. And I don't think that can be overlooked. I am really here because most recently I've joined a board with a bunch of other Cape and Islands field hockey coaches, and we are in the process of filing our 501(c)(3) in league for a youth field hockey program. That has been my dream. More than the high school girls. I love them. But come on, the real fun is when you ignite that love for sport. And I think I just want you guys to be aware that these girls exist. And I think you are aware that they need a place to play on any surface. So it's so wonderful to hear your support, but also to understand the diligence required as we approach this subject, right? Like I have not looked in or said the word PFAS. We have a 7-month-old, and Dan has been a single father since this plan got passed of researching this topic, because it is alarming. I do understand the cause for concern, right? As a new mom, I don't want to expose my child to anything. However, I think the efforts to protect each other is a bit misguided. And I think moving forward, if your board could act as a voice of reason when speakers are being presented and information is being presented. Education is the great equalizer. And the reality is that people are not getting their information in a safe manner. They're getting it off of Facebook comments and hearsay and what gets passed around. And I would really love some support in the regulation of how this topic is discussed and approached, because the risk is large on both sides. How is it going to impact our children from an opportunity standpoint, a mental health standpoint? They are already limited out here. Brent Tortomella says all the time, the age at which our children are introduced to substances. So I could go on and on and on, and I will not do that because I'm sure Erin has lovely things to say and I want to give her time. But I'm excited that this is on your radar, and I'm asking for support in bringing reason, intelligence, and the ability to accurately evaluate information to the forefront of this conversation. And Charlie, I will be emailing you about field space for the youth field hockey program.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to you that we have a field hockey camp coming this summer.
Amazing. Who is coming?
It's Excel Field Hockey Camp.
Okay.
It's a man named Mark Forrester. I believe he's at out of Boston College.
Awesome.
So he's
Great
already
stuff.
reserved field space. Starts the 30th of June and runs
Yeah,
for
Charlie,
that first week of
will-
July.
I will personally line the field myself. You just let me know. Okay?
I'm going to move this on, and right before I turn to you, Erin, I would say that I want the public to know that the original plan of the athletic complex and the total school complex was for 2 fields, 2 turf fields. And one was going to be for field hockey and lacrosse, and another one for football and soccer, based on the idea that the 2 different, the depth of the turf might be a little different for the field hockey and lacrosse than it might be for football and soccer. But that was the original plan some years ago, in case anybody didn't know that particular piece. So, Erin, are you still there? Or did she have to go off to another meeting?
We might have lost her.
Oh,
I think Hadley is ready to go.
okay. Hadley?
Thank you, Mike. And thank you to all the members of Park and Rec. I'm not going to go into, I'm well versed in the plan of 2021. And part of the reason why I'm fighting so hard now is because of that. The disappointment that came when that plan did not move forward to the voting community, when pieces of that plan were removed. And on behalf of everyone that worked so hard on that plan, I think it's important that everybody fight as hard as we can to get the school's plan approved this time. And the other reason I'm fighting so hard for it is because, my personal experience on these fields and knowing the importance of them. Like Elizabeth has said, and Graham and everyone else, there's so much inaccuracies floating around right now. And one thing I would ask of Park and Rec is to, for example, I just looked at the December 8th meeting of school committee. that was held in the trailer. I was present at that meeting. There were members of the Nantucket Land and Water Council up at the mic saying things that were not accurate. And at the school committee workshop, there was a person that was called to speak at that workshop who was saying things that were not accurate. And now we're hearing that the Board of Health is having a workshop on February 17th, potentially, calling in their own set of experts to talk about why turf is bad, PFAS. And some of those people we've looked at and questioned the legitimacy of some of those people and what they're saying. So that's just something that's difficult to grasp and what to do about that.
Well, I think we need to be careful as commissioners entering into what could be a slippery slope as we talk about what another board is doing in terms of taking information from various sources. I appreciate your concern on that, and I've heard that concern voiced, but I just want for the record that is the concern being voiced by a member of the audience at the meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission. Right?
I totally appreciate that, and I think
Thanks, Adam.
well, I completely appreciate that standpoint. I think I say that with the note that I think the more that the Board of Health can see that people are watching them and asking questions about who they're going to bring to the table, just asking, is a good thing. Like the more that they're aware that a lot of eyes are on them right now, we're looking at who they're asking to serve as experts on the panel, for example, and why. I think it's going to help them self-reflect a little bit. I'm not saying what they're doing is right or wrong, but there's just been a couple of things that have come forward lately that, when somebody speaks at the mic, a lot of people feel that that's accurate information, and it's hard.
Erin, oh gosh, there you are. You're up.
Thanks. I'm at the girls' basketball game and it went to halftime and everything. I'm like, did everyone just log onto their phone? I lost everybody. So I just wanted to call and speak about I'm the vice president of the youth lacrosse board on Island, and we have seen tremendous growth. We have 2 teams at every age level. When my daughters started, one is in 8th grade and one is a junior in high school, there was no 3rd and 4th grade team, no U9 teams, no team had more than like 15 kids, and now we're looking at 7 girls youth lacrosse teams and 4 to 5 boys youth lacrosse teams, and that doesn't even include the Learn to Play program that we offer at the Boys and Girls Club, because we couldn't honestly offer these programs without the help of the Boys and Girls Club. So to echo what Charlie's saying, there's just not enough space for what we currently have, and we're only getting bigger. I initially got involved in this whole conversation because of the ADA. Well, I just want to say I thank you for your support. Anything I can do to help, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to add one other thing that perhaps the people who are supporting turf might want to look at. And right now, you're looking at the amount of fertilizer and water that goes into the fields.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I think that's a good thing to look at. But I think you should project that to a very different number. If we don't do turf fields, you're going to need to increase the number of grass playing fields. You might need to double that to meet the demand of all of the sports. So as you figure in your calculations on nitrogen and and all of the things that have to go into maintaining a grass field. It shouldn't be for what exists today. It should be for what needs to exist to continue to support the sports that are here today and are going to be here in 5 years. Just a thought.
It's a good point, Mike. I'd just like to echo as we talk about sole source aquifers. I did a very rough number calculation. I didn't by any means do a full audit of our irrigation system, say over at Nobody, but just by looking at the run times and knowing what my average flow out of that well is, we were putting down on an average run time, and we'll say average, if you use a 30-minute per zone kind of base 3 days a week, 1.7 million gallons per field. So that is times 2 at Nobody. This year, in a year where we had 0 rain from about the month of June, that system was cranked up 6 days a week, and in order to make sure that by the time we hit the fall, we had viable grass fields, for the fall sports. So it really is something to think about when we talk about aquifer, the water usage. And if we were to lose, say, the turf field at Nobody, we would, we are building one field, which is great, helps us with our hours, but we need 2 more fields to replace the loss of that one field in order to maintain a safe playability. Or Graham said, or if it rains, we have a rainy day. My first call to the youth lacrosse programs is, I'm not going to force you onto the turf, but if you destroy the grass fields now at the end of March and April, there's nothing I can do to make them better for you in May. And that turf field, and then everyone says, great, perfect. And then everyone packs onto that one turf field and allows our grass fields to be as nice as they are later in the season.
Well, I think the schools face the same problem that we do for Parks and Rec, is for your grass fields, you have to have a rotation of using fields, because you cannot use them day after day, 365 days a year or 300 days. They should periodically be fallow so that they can recover.
Absolutely. And in an ideal world, you'd leave, we'll just say at Nobody, we're building a 3rd field. Ideally, one of the 3 fields every year would be in a state of rest.
Right.
And that would include, we'll talk about the 2 lacrosse fields at Delta, because the Little League is a little less abusive to the grass, but there will be a rotation where once a year, for a whole season, one of those fields, all it's doing is getting pampered, fertilized, irrigated, mowed, making sure it's, filling in divots, potholes, reseeded, whatever else. And then you're in a nice constant rotation would be an ideal world.
So I'm going to see if there's anybody else who hasn't spoken who wishes to. And I'm going to pause just a little bit to see if I see any hands pop up. And then I will go back. I see you, Graham. And then I'll go back to anybody else who has another comment. And then I will at some point move us on in our agenda, because we have a few other things. So I don't see anybody new. So I'll go back to you, Graham, now, and then anybody else.
Awesome. Thank you. Am I allowed to ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Okay. I don't really know anything about grass because my mom made me weed as a punishment. So I have like not a green thumb. So I keep hearing about fertilizer, like it's having nitrogen in it. Does organic fertilizer also have nitrogen in it? Does anyone know? I don't know if I can ask that.
Yes. So, Jesse, I'm sure you can back me up on this. So all fertilizer has nitrogen in it. The percentage varies depending on the formula. So at Nobody we soil test, and that dictates, how many pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet we put down. Organic versus synthetic fertilizers each kind of have their place. Synthetic fertilizers are often, bonded with there's a product I used to use that was bonded. That's what he described as like a jawbreaker.
Yeah.
Right. So it had these layers that as the temperature rose, the layer would kind of melt away and slow release the fertilizer. So it's feeding the ground as it's warm enough to do it, which is great for early season stuff. Organic fertilizers don't tend to have that. I used to use a product, I can't remember the name of it, but it was so organic and so clean. that there was a big label on it said "Don't feed to pets," because it was like bone meal, feather meal, and all these things, and that's great, and it does, and it will feed, the ground, but it also has, if you get a big rain a couple days after you apply, you do have the potential for runoff there because it's not held like a synthetic fertilizer. I don't know if that answers your.
Yeah, no, that does. I just kind of was curious. And does it take a while for that fertilizer, once it goes on the ground, to like absorb in? You were saying the synthetic one has more of that slow release.
Yeah.
Which,
so we
are
obviously
kids playing
apply
on
them
it
for the
then?
school does.
I'm just-
Yeah, well, there's the best practices for fertilizer, the fertilizer regulations on the town of Nantucket, and so you can't apply before April 15th, and I think up until November 15th are the dates. And ideally, you want your soil to be warm enough so that the microorganisms in the soil are what ultimately take, whether it's organic or synthetic fertilizer. They have to process that into a form of nitrogen that can be uptaken by the roots of the plant.
Gotcha.
So if you go out now and fertilize, and you throw down fertilizer, whether it's organic or synthetic, it's just going to sit there, right?
Gotcha.
It has to be actively growing in order for it to be used.
Okay. All right. That's super helpful. Thank you.
And the other thing other than fertilizer is that's also involved in grass management is pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and I'm sure some of those are also being used on the fields. I couldn't tell you exactly what Charlie's team is working, but there's a lot of things that are being leached into the ground, and should be considered when weighing the pros and cons.
Thank you, Jesse. If you want to have a little fun with this, realizing that it's all a very serious matter, you could say that I've never seen the geese land on a turf field. For those of you who've been by the soccer field.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. I don't see anybody with further comments. Unless I do. Oh, well, there you go, Elizabeth. Go ahead.
I mean, sorry, that's my son. You can tell me if I'm acting out of order, but is the Parks and Rec department potentially impacted outside of No Deer if there were to be a ban on synthetic materials? Like I think about like the green playground off of Old South. That's under your purview. I'm just
so the Old South playground is the Nantucket Land Bank.
Okay.
If they were to ban synthetic turf, I believe it would just be on turf products. They're not trying to go after things like the rubberized playground surfacing. Is that what you'd be referencing over at like the playground?
Yes.
They're specifically right now. It's a very specific focus on synthetic turf.
Okay. And then in terms of like testing, is the town like responsible for, I guess, like, I'm really just trying to understand.
For testing the No Deer turf field? Charlie.
If that's something that you might be looking into as your own board, or if the town would facilitate that. I'm truly not well versed in any of this. The most I know about turf is that I used to sleep on it before practice because I was nervous I was gonna be late at St. A's at 3 a.m. So if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I don't. I'm just trying to better understand.
Jesse, go ahead.
As far, we've done, obviously we do our safety testing and that sort of stuff. We haven't specifically tested for PFAS at No Deer around the field. It's very difficult. It'd be very difficult to isolate whether or not anything actually came from the field. If you've ever been out there on a Sunday, there are cars parked on the grass all around that field. So you'd be very hard. It's the reason that when they're going to test whatever product may come to Nantucket, it's going to become sealed from the factory so that it's not even transported and potentially rained on, so that they can get an accurate reading of what's actually in the grass. So there'd be no way to say that somebody didn't have an old, one of those old Nantucket beater trucks parked on the lawn and it wasn't dripping oil, or transmission fluid, and that happens to be with the spot where we test and get a weird spike.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Aaron, and then we'll move on the rest of our agenda. And Aaron, first of all, what's the score? You're muted. We cannot hear you, Aaron. She knows. Okay. All right.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, we are not winning, but they are fighting really hard. I just had a question for the Parks and Rec in general. Is it typical for the Board of Health to ask what your materials are in construction and to require approval for whatever you use in construction on projects?
No, I believe this is the first time.
Okay, I was just curious if this is something all projects across the town were subject to, or is this a special little something they're doing just for our kids?
This appears to be a one-off.
Thank you.
Okay. Charlie, you've got your report at this point. I want to thank the public for your input, and you're welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of our meeting or go on to other things that you have. So thank you.
Thank
Charlie?
you.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. So first thing we have up is the Know Your Project update. We are moving forward. We should have a 100% complete set of plans. I'm hoping tomorrow, and we'll be looking to push those out to bid in the next couple weeks. It's come together really fast. I unfortunately don't have a set to share with you, but I can remind you all that we are adding a new grass field to the Nobody complex. It'll be right when you drive into the field, the wooded area on the right. We'll be adjusting the roadway in, creating some additional parking near that field. We'll be adding sports lighting to the turf field, so we'll be able to extend the hours of use there, especially this time of year, so you can be out there playing soccer or exercising or walking well beyond the 4 p.m. darkness that hits us. So we're very excited about that. We've got the playground. We've ordered the actual structures are on order. So we'll have those coming in, and we'll kind of store them here. The construction company that will be doing the general construction will prepare that for us. And so we'll have the new playground area in, which as you drive in, will be across the street from the new building, kind of there's a fenced area which houses the irrigation system, and that will have a playground which will be fenced in by a 4-foot tall metal fence with a gate on the field side to the south field. So very, very excited to see this kind of all come together. We are probably going to sod the field so we can bring it online as fast as possible. We originally were going to do some full depth restoration to the 2 existing grass fields, but after doing some soil testing and digging down through the soil profiles, we will not need to do a full depth restoration, which is great, saves us some money, and will allow us to sod the main field instead of seed it. So it allows us to bring it online instead of having a 2-year waiting period, just staring at nice grass waiting to go on it. We should be able to bring it on within a season. So very excited for that to come alive. We'll be installing 2 scoreboards. One will be for the turf field, and one will be for the new grass field, which would be great for the youth programs, but also if we continue to help and host the high school and their programs, that there'll be actual scoreboards there for use. So very, very excited to see this kind of come around, and we hope to be like mid-March breaking some ground if everything goes as planned, which is great. Next one I have up here is the Tom Nevers debris removal project. We broke ground on that a couple weeks ago out there. I actually will share. I've got some photos I could share for this project. This is going to be kind of moving along very rapidly. where we've got about a 60-day window. So we plan to be on and off the beach by the end of February, and removing all those big concrete structures from the water line, removing items from the bluff face, and then we'll have a ramp access down to the beach, which will allow DPW to access the ocean, the shoreline, should we need it, to get the little things. If more of the roadway falls in, for instance, and we've got asphalt and things like that, we could run down and get it. So this is a picture of the job site. You can kind of see the hockey rink area, the old metal buildings. So they've cleared in through here, and they're now currently, last week, this week, next week, are working with the UXO team. The unexploded ordnance team is out there screening ahead of the construction team. And so as they find, if they find anything that could be an ordinance, or otherwise they dig down, remove it, assess it, and treat it however it needs to be dealt with. So you can see they're kind of excavating in an area where they must have found some buried debris. We do know from ground penetrating radar that there is some big areas of unknown buried items, and this is kind of the same area that we've chose to make this ramp down to the beach to kind of kill two birds with one stone. As we need to go deep to get down to the beach, we also are able to get these things out of the ground. Just a few more pictures, some of the debris that's out on the beach. This one I kind of included, and it kind of segues great into capital projects for next year. As you can see, somebody went out onto the field during one of the last snowstorms and did some donuts for us. You can also see out in the grass areas beyond the softball field that it's quite well torn up. And so one of the projects we have in for capital this year is chain link fence to actually enclose this field to prevent this from happening in the future. If you ever want to see a bunch of donut tracks, wait till there's an inch of snow and take a ride out to Tom Nevers, because the whole lower field is pretty well torn up. Some more of the debris on the beach that we'll be getting rid of. So I'm going to leave that one there. One of the other capital projects we've got in the works is the reconstruction of the hockey rink. We'll be using, hopefully, the same, if we're approved, it'll be the same sort of process we did down at Jetties, where we'll grind the old surface concrete slab, and we'll bring this back with pickleball, tennis, basketball, and we will bring back the boards, so it could be used for roller hockey. Again, the plan will be that all of the nets in this vicinity would be portable. So if you wanted to go out and play tennis, you kind of wheel the tennis net over, or if you were there to play pickleball or hockey, it would kind of be a first come, first serve, sort of use. We've had some questions from some of the different board members about whether this is a good location for it, and I really think this is an underutilized area for us. It's one of the areas we can expand in. We did put in a new playground system out here and saw a tremendous uptick in usage once people kind of found it, and they said, "Oh, I don't, it's kind of off the beaten path. It's not as crowded as some of the other playgrounds." And certainly when we have the softball league out there, the kids out there surely enjoyed it. So this is a great area, I think, where we can add some more recreation. We're also about to break ground as a town on a bike path that will lead right to the park. So having more stuff out here for recreational use, I think, will be just a great asset for us.
Great.
More of the destruction of the fields. Again, there. So I'll stop sharing with that one. So those kind of our big ones. The other big capital project we have in is for the phase 2 of the Tom Nevers debris removal. And that will be everything that we'll say is upland of the current asphalt road. And we still are waiting for a final real estimate on that. But we'll need to do ground penetrating radar, that sort of thing, to identify things that are buried. And the hope would be is that we can get that project funded, get that stuff out of the ground so it doesn't become a problem on the beach as erosion happens. It's much easier to permit work upland. The permitting process to get down on the beach was exhaustive. It was 9 different federal and state permitting agencies, and you can imagine how those meetings, go and how long that takes to do. So this would be great if we can get this cleaned up, then we can really start adding some more stuff to the park.
Okay.
The last one there will be our CPC project update. I know Jesse probably knows, but I've been made aware that I believe the CPC is going to fully fund our Delta Field project, which would be fantastic to redo all the fencing and backstops for the Little League, as well as provide them some new equipment. I think it's going to be a great project.
I first of all, I would thank you and the town for the progress that we have made in recent years on Parks and Rec and taking care of our facilities. It's really remarkable. So thank you, Charlie.
I was going to say exactly the same thing, Michael. It's incredible. Since you've been in, Charlie, it's
Yeah, you definitely
I
are.
feel very lucky to be on this commission with having you at the helm and seeing what's actually happening for our community. It's incredible. Now I'll never have to leave Tom Nevers.
Right.
This is great.
I still would like to see us promote all that's been done a little bit better, because I think there are a lot of people in the community who think of the Parks and Rec 10 years ago and maybe where we were, and that's not to denigrate anybody, who participated in the process in the past, but we've really made significant progress in the last few years. So
I'm
we
working
need to
with
promote that.
I'm working with the comms department to do that stuff. So we actually did get up and active. So there's a town website for the Tom Nevers project that is up and active. So you can sign up on the website to get, we're going to try to do weekly updates and photo progress of that project as it proceeds. We've got one in the works for everything that's going on at Nobodier for the reconstruction, and everything going, that's going to be happening there. Try to keep everyone informed and in tune as to what we have in the works and upcoming, and try to get it
sort of a
get the good word out there.
Did you know? Yeah. Well, thank you. Anything further from any of the commissioners? Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting of January 15th, 2026. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.